In a quiet suburban neighborhood, the morning sun filtered through the curtains of a modest, well-kept family home. Inside, the house was a testament to order and care, with everything in its place. In a small, brightly lit room, Emily was meticulously organizing her collection of dolls. Each doll had a name and wore beautiful, hand-sewn dresses. Emily, with her hair neatly tied back and wearing a spotless dress, mirrored the neatness of her beloved dolls. As she carefully placed each doll in its designated spot, her younger brother Jack burst into the room like a whirlwind. Jack, in stark contrast to Emily, was a bundle of untamed energy. His clothes were always slightly askew, and he had a knack for creating chaos wherever he went. "Jack, be careful!" Emily cried as one of her dolls toppled over. She hurried to pick it up, her brow furrowed with concern. Jack shrugged nonchalantly. "Why should I? They're just dolls." Emily's eyes filled with frustration. "They're not just dolls to me. They have names. They have stories." Jack rolled his eyes and turned to leave the room. "Whatever. I have more important things to do." As he exited, their mother, Nancy, appeared in the doorway, having overheard the commotion. She was a woman of quiet strength, her patience tempered by years of managing the household and her two very different children. "Jack, come back here!" Nancy called, her tone firm but not unkind. Jack hesitated, but then turned back, knowing better than to ignore his mother. "How many times have I told you to respect your sister's things?" Nancy asked, her eyes locking onto Jack's. "You need to be more considerate." Jack shifted uncomfortably. "I didn't mean to, Mum, it's just... I don't see the point." Nancy sighed, her expression softening slightly. "Emily cares about her dolls, and you need to respect that, just like she respects your toys." Emily, who had been silently watching, chimed in. "It's okay, Mom. I just wish he'd be more careful." Nancy nodded, giving Jack a final, meaningful look. "You can play together, but you need to be mindful of each other's things. Understood?" Jack nodded, albeit reluctantly. "Yes, Mom." With the situation diffused, Nancy turned to Emily. "Thank you for being patient, Emily. Now, how about we all go outside for a bit? It's a beautiful day." Emily's face lit up. "Can we, Jack? I bet we can find something fun to do outside." Jack's demeanor brightened at the prospect of an outdoor adventure. "Okay, but I get to pick what we do." Nancy smiled, watching as her children ran off to the backyard, their brief conflict forgotten. She knew there would be more moments of friction, but she also knew that with each small lesson, they were learning to appreciate and respect each other's differences. The morning sun streamed through the kitchen windows, casting a warm glow over the tidy space. Nancy was preparing breakfast, the aroma of pancakes filling the air. Emily sat at the table, carefully arranging her school supplies in her backpack, while Jack was nowhere to be seen. "Mum, where's Jack?" Emily asked, looking up from her organized array of pencils and notebooks. Nancy sighed, flipping a pancake with practiced ease. "He's probably in his room. Can you go check on him, sweetheart?" Emily nodded and hopped off her chair, her footsteps light as she made her way to the room she shared with her brother. As she pushed open the door, she was greeted by the familiar sight of chaos. Toys were scattered across the floor, clothes were strewn about, and Jack was lying in the middle of it all, absorbed in a comic book. "Jack, Mum's making breakfast. Aren't you going to get ready for school?" Emily asked, a hint of exasperation in her voice. Jack barely glanced up. "In a minute." Emily's frustration grew as she looked around at the mess. "Jack, you need to clean up. It's not fair that Mum has to remind you every day." Jack shrugged, still focused on his comic. "I'll do it later." Emily shook her head and walked back to the kitchen, where Nancy was setting plates on the table. "Mom, Jack's room is a mess again. He won't listen." Nancy paused, taking a deep breath before calling out, "Jack, come here, please." A few moments later, Jack sauntered into the kitchen, his comic book still in hand. "What is it, Mum?" Nancy's eyes narrowed slightly as she looked at him. "Jack, you need to clean up your room. It's important to keep things tidy, just like your sister does." Jack rolled his eyes. "Why does it matter if it's a little messy?" Nancy placed her hands on her hips, trying to keep her frustration in check. "It matters because it's about respect, Jack. Respect for yourself, for your space, and for others. Your sister works hard to keep her things in order, and you should try to do the same." Jack huffed, slumping into a chair. "It's just not a big deal to me, Mom." Emily, feeling the need to support her mother, added, "Jack, it makes things easier for everyone. Plus, you'll be able to find your stuff faster if it's organized." Jack frowned but didn't argue further, sensing that both his mother and sister were serious. Nancy softened her tone, sensing his reluctance. "Jack, I know it's not your favorite thing to do, but it's important. How about this? After breakfast, we can all spend a little time tidying up together. Then you can get back to your comic book." Jack considered this for a moment before nodding. "Okay, fine." Nancy smiled, relieved that the situation had been diffused for now. "Thank you, Jack. Now, let's eat before the pancakes get cold." The family settled into their meal, the earlier tension easing as they chatted about their plans for the day. Despite the moments of friction, there was a warmth and connection that underscored their interactions, a testament to the love that held them together. After breakfast, true to her word, Nancy led the effort to clean up the children's room. She worked alongside Emily and Jack, making it a team effort rather than a chore. Emily carefully placed her dolls back in their designated spots, while Jack, albeit reluctantly, began picking up his toys. "See, Jack, it's not so bad when we all do it together," Nancy said, giving him an encouraging smile. Jack glanced at his mother and sister, a small smile tugging at his lips. "Yeah, I guess it's not." With the room finally in order, Nancy took a moment to appreciate the calm that followed. "Great job, everyone. Now let's get ready for school." As they prepared to leave, Nancy couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. Despite the daily challenges and the differences in their personalities, her children were learning valuable lessons about responsibility and cooperation. Emily and Jack headed out the door, their backpacks slung over their shoulders. As they walked to the bus stop, Emily nudged her brother. "Thanks for helping clean up, Jack." Jack shrugged, but there was a hint of appreciation in his voice. "Yeah, well, it wasn't so bad. And hey, maybe we can play outside together after school." Emily's face lit up. "I'd like that." The morning sun peeked through the blinds, casting a soft golden light across the children's room. Emily was the first to stir, sitting up in bed and stretching. She glanced over at Jack, who was still fast asleep, his comic book resting on his chest. Smiling, she quietly got out of bed and began her usual morning routine. As she tiptoed around the room, carefully arranging her school supplies, she noticed something unusual. Jack's side of the room, normally a cluttered mess, was oddly empty. All of his toys, which usually littered the floor, were nowhere to be seen. Emily furrowed her brow, but decided not to wake Jack just yet. Downstairs, Nancy was already in the kitchen, humming softly as she prepared breakfast. The smell of freshly brewed coffee filled the air, mingling with the scent of pancakes on the griddle. Emily made her way down and greeted her mother with a puzzled expression. "Morning, Mom. Have you seen Jack's toys?" "They're all gone," Emily said, her voice tinged with curiosity. Nancy glanced up from the stove, her eyes twinkling with a hint of amusement. "Good morning, sweetheart." "No, I haven't seen them. Maybe Jack decided to clean up for a change." Emily laughed softly. "I doubt that. He was reading his comic book when he fell asleep." Nancy's smile widened. "Well, let's see what Jack has to say about it. Go wake him up and tell him breakfast is ready." Emily nodded and headed back upstairs. She shook Jack gently, trying to rouse him. "Jack, wake up. Breakfast is ready." Jack stirred and groaned, rubbing his eyes. "5 more minutes," he mumbled. "Jack, your toys are gone," Emily said, more insistently. That got his attention. Jack sat up abruptly, his eyes wide with alarm. "What do you mean, gone?" "Just come and see," Emily replied, leading him to his side of the room. Jack's panic grew as he scanned the empty space where his toys should have been. "Mom!" he shouted, running down the stairs with Emily close behind. Nancy looked up from the table where she was setting down plates of pancakes. "What's wrong, Jack?" "My toys! They're all gone!" Jack exclaimed, his voice trembling with a mix of confusion and fear. Nancy remained calm, her expression thoughtful. "Jack, did you put them away last night?" Jack shook his head vigorously. "No, I left them right here." Emily stepped forward, trying to soothe her brother. "Maybe they left because you didn't take care of them." Jack stared at her, bewildered. "What are you talking about?" Nancy sat down at the table, motioning for the children to join her. "Sometimes, when we don't take care of our things, they feel neglected. Maybe your toys decided they needed a break." Jack looked between his mother and sister, struggling to process the idea. "That doesn't make any sense. Toys can't just walk away." Nancy's expression softened. "No, they can't. But think of it as a lesson, Jack. If you want your toys to stay, you need to take care of them." Jack slumped into his chair, feeling a mix of guilt and frustration. "So what do I do now?" Emily placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "Maybe we can look for them. They can't have gone far." Nancy nodded in agreement. "Finish your breakfast first, and then we can start searching the house. Together." The family ate their breakfast in relative silence, the weight of the situation hanging over them. Afterward, they began their search, starting in the children's room and working their way through the house. They checked every nook and cranny, from under the beds to the back of closets, but the toys were nowhere to be found. Jack's frustration grew with each passing minute. "This is hopeless," he muttered. Nancy knelt down beside him, her tone gentle but firm. "Jack, this is a chance for you to show that you care. Let's not give up just yet." They moved to the living room where Emily suddenly had an idea. "What if we check the yard? Maybe they ended up outside." Jack's eyes lit up with a glimmer of hope. "Yeah, let's check." The air was filled with the sounds of birds chirping and the rustling of leaves, creating a serene backdrop for their adventure. Nancy stood on the porch, watching her children with a mix of amusement and pride. She knew that this search was about more than just finding toys. It was a lesson in responsibility and care. "Let's check around the yard again," Emily suggested, her eyes scanning the area. "We might have missed something." Jack nodded eagerly. "Yeah, maybe they're hiding somewhere we didn't think to look." The siblings split up, each taking a different part of the yard. Emily moved towards the flower beds, carefully lifting leaves and peering under bushes. Jack, meanwhile, made his way towards the old barn at the edge of the property, a place that held countless childhood memories. As Jack approached the barn, he spotted their grandfather, George, tending to some tools by the entrance. George was a kind, wise man with a gentle demeanor, always ready with a story or a piece of advice. "Hi, Grandpa," Jack called out, waving. George looked up, a smile spreading across his face. "Good morning, Jack. What brings you out here so early?" "We're looking for my toys," Jack explained. "They disappeared last night, and we think they might have ended up out here." George raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Disappeared, you say? That sounds like quite the mystery. Have you checked everywhere?" Jack nodded. "We've looked in the yard and found a few, but we're still missing a lot." George stroked his chin thoughtfully. "Well, let's see if we can find any clues around the barn. Toys don't just vanish into thin air after all." Together, they began to search the area around the barn. George's experienced eyes quickly spotted something that Jack had missed. A small toy soldier lying in the grass near the barn door. "Look here, Jack," George said, picking up the toy and handing it to his grandson. "It seems your toys might have left a trail for us." Jack's eyes widened with excitement. "Thanks, Grandpa. This means we're on the right track." Just then, Emily joined them, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. "Did you find something?" Jack held up the toy soldier. "Grandpa found this near the barn. Maybe there are more inside." George nodded in agreement. "Let's take a look. There might be more clues waiting for us." The three of them entered the barn, the air cool and filled with the scent of hay and wood. Sunlight streamed through the gaps in the walls, casting patterns of light and shadow on the floor. They carefully navigated the cluttered space, checking under old tools and behind stacks of hay bales. Emily's sharp eyes caught sight of something shiny in a corner. She hurried over and pulled out a small, glittering car. "Jack, look, another one." Jack grinned, his excitement growing. "This is great. We're getting closer." Nancy appeared at the barn door, her presence a calming influence on the children's growing excitement. "Any luck in here?" she asked, looking around. "We've found a few more toys," Jack said proudly. "I think we're getting close to finding them all." Nancy smiled warmly. "That's wonderful. I'm glad you're both working together on this. It shows how much you care about your things and each other." George, who had been quietly observing, spoke up. "It's important to remember, Jack, that taking care of your belongings is a way of showing respect, not just for the toys, but for the people who gave them to you and those who share your space." Jack nodded, absorbing his grandfather's words. "I understand, Grandpa. I'll do better from now on." As they continued their search, they discovered more toys hidden in various nooks and crannies of the barn. Each find brought a new surge of excitement and a deeper sense of accomplishment. By the time they had finished, Jack's arms were full of recovered treasures. "Look at all these!" Jack exclaimed, his face beaming with pride. Emily patted his back. "We did it, Jack. We found them all." Nancy gathered her children in a warm embrace. "I'm so proud of both of you. This was a big lesson and you handled it wonderfully." George nodded in agreement. "Indeed. And remember, this isn't just about finding toys. It's about learning to care, to be responsible, and to appreciate what you have." As they walked back to the house, the family felt a renewed sense of connection. The morning search had brought them closer, not just physically, but emotionally. The warm afternoon sun bathed the barn in a golden glow, casting long shadows across the yard. Emily and Jack, their spirits buoyed by the morning's discoveries, resumed their search for the remaining toys. The barn, with its rustic charm and familiar smells of hay and wood, seemed almost like a treasure trove waiting to be explored. Their father, Tom, joined them. Tom was a man of few words, but had a knack for solving problems with a calm, steady hand. He watched as Emily and Jack scoured the barn, their excitement palpable. "All right, kids," Tom said, his voice warm and encouraging. "Let's see what we can find. Remember, sometimes the best clues are hidden in plain sight." Emily nodded, her eyes gleaming with anticipation. "Let's start in the loft. We didn't check there this morning." Jack, eager to impress his father, led the way up the creaky wooden ladder. "I'll go first." The loft was dimly lit, dust particles dancing in the shafts of sunlight that streamed through the gaps in the wooden walls. As they reached the top, Emily spotted something shiny tucked behind a bale of hay. "Look, Jack, over there!" she exclaimed, pointing excitedly. Jack clambered over, his heart pounding with excitement. He pulled out a small toy truck, its red paint glinting in the light. "Got it!" he shouted, holding it up triumphantly. Tom smiled, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "Great job, kids. Let's keep looking." As they continued their search, they uncovered more toys hidden in clever spots. A doll nestled in a bucket, a toy soldier perched on a beam, and a ball wedged between two planks. Each discovery brought a fresh wave of excitement and a sense of accomplishment. Finally, as they were about to give up, Emily noticed something curious. There was a piece of paper sticking out from under a loose floorboard. She knelt down and carefully pried it free, revealing a note written in a familiar, neat handwriting. "Dad, look at this," Emily said, handing the note to Tom. Tom read the note aloud, his voice filled with a mix of curiosity and amusement. "Dear Jack, I hope you've enjoyed the hunt. Remember, taking care of your things means they'll always be there when you need them. Love, Uncle Michael." Jack's eyes widened in surprise. "Uncle Michael? He did this?" Tom chuckled softly, shaking his head. "It seems your uncle wanted to teach you a lesson in responsibility." Emily grinned, her eyes twinkling with understanding. "That's why the toys were hidden so well. Uncle Michael must have thought it would be a fun way to help you learn." Jack nodded slowly, the pieces falling into place. "I get it now. I really need to take better care of my stuff." Tom placed a reassuring hand on Jack's shoulder. "It's a good lesson, Jack, and it looks like you've learned it well." With their mission accomplished, they gathered the recovered toys and headed back to the house. The walk through the yard felt different this time, filled with a sense of resolution and newfound understanding. Back in the living room, Nancy was waiting for them, her face lighting up as they entered. "Did you find everything?" Emily held up the toys proudly. "We did, Mom, and we found a note from Uncle Michael." Nancy's eyes sparkled with amusement. "Ah, Michael always did have a creative way of teaching lessons." Jack stepped forward, a determined look on his face. "I'm going to take better care of my toys from now on, Mom. I promise." Nancy hugged him tightly. "I know you will, Jack. And remember, we're always here to help you." The afternoon sun cast a warm glow over the yard as Emily and Jack made their way to their Uncle Michael's house. They were eager to understand why their beloved toys had been hidden and what lesson their uncle had intended to teach them. As they approached the front door, Emily could sense Jack's mix of anticipation and apprehension. "Do you think Uncle Michael will be mad?" Jack asked, his voice a whisper. Emily smiled reassuringly. "I think he just wants to help us understand something important. Don't worry." They knocked on the door, and a moment later, Uncle Michael appeared, a welcoming smile on his face. "Emily, Jack, come in. I've been expecting you." Inside, the house was cozy and filled with the scent of freshly baked cookies. Michael led them to the living room, where a fire crackled warmly in the fireplace. The room was inviting, filled with photographs and mementos of family adventures. Michael gestured for them to sit down. "I suppose you're wondering why your toys disappeared." Jack nodded, looking both curious and anxious. "Yeah, Uncle Michael. Why did you take them?" Michael leaned forward, his expression thoughtful. "Well, Jack, I wanted to teach you an important lesson about taking care of your things. You see, when we don't look after our belongings, they can get lost or broken. But when we treat them with care, they stay with us much longer. Emily chimed in, her eyes wide with understanding. So you hid the toys to show Jack that he needs to be more responsible? Michael nodded. Exactly. I knew it would be a bit of a challenge, but I also knew it would make a lasting impression. Jack's face reddened with realization and a hint of guilt. I'm sorry, Uncle Michael. I didn't mean to be careless. I just didn't think it was that important. Michael's expression softened. I understand, Jack. We all make mistakes. The important thing is to learn from them. Do you think you can take better care of your toys from now on? Jack nodded earnestly. I promise. I'll be more careful. Michael smiled, his eyes twinkling with approval. That's what I wanted to hear. Now, how about we go to the garage? I have something for you both. The children followed Michael to the garage, where he opened a large wooden chest. Inside, neatly arranged, were all of Jack's missing toys. The sight of them brought a huge smile to Jack's face. Here they are, Michael said, handing the toys to Jack. But remember, they need your care and attention. Jack held his toys tightly, feeling a newfound sense of responsibility. I will, Uncle Michael. Thank you for teaching me this. Emily beamed with pride, watching her brother embrace the lesson. We really appreciate it, Uncle Michael. Michael ruffled Jack's hair affectionately. You two are good kids. Sometimes we just need a little reminder of what's important. As they left Michael's house, the sun was beginning to set, casting a beautiful orange glow over the yard. The walk back home was filled with a sense of accomplishment and understanding. Jack felt a weight lifted from his shoulders, knowing he had learned something valuable. When they arrived home, Nancy was waiting for them on the porch, a knowing smile on her face. How did it go with Uncle Michael? Jack ran up to her, his toys clutched in his hands. Mum, I learned a lot today. I'm going to take better care of my toys from now on. Uncle Michael helped me understand why it's important. Nancy hugged him tightly. I'm so proud of you, Jack. And you too, Emily. You've both shown great maturity. The fireplace crackled softly, casting a warm, comforting glow over the room. They shared stories, laughed, and enjoyed each other's company, knowing that the lessons learned today would stay with them forever. Jack glanced around at his family, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. Thank you, everyone. I'm really lucky to have you all. Emily smiled at her brother. We're lucky to have you too, Jack. Nancy nodded in agreement, her heart full. Family is the most important thing, and as long as we take care of each other, we'll always be strong. 30 years had passed since the memorable lesson in the yard. Jack's home was now filled with the echoes of his own children's laughter. The house, a cozy blend of modern comforts and nostalgic touches, was a testament to the values he had learned and carried with him throughout his life. Jack, now a man in his early 40s, stood in the living room, gazing at a framed photograph of his family from years ago. His children, Lily and Max, were playing in the backyard, their laughter reminding him of his own childhood adventures with Emily. Hey, Dad, Max called out, running into the room. Can you help me with my model airplane? It's not fitting together right. Jack smiled warmly, ruffling his son's hair. Of course, buddy. Let's take a look. As they worked on the model, the doorbell rang. Jack's heart leapt with joy as he knew who it was. He opened the door to find his uncle, Michael, and sister Emily, both carrying gifts and wearing broad smiles. Uncle Michael, Aunt Emily? Lily and Max shouted, running to greet them. Michael knelt down, embracing the children with a twinkle in his eye. Look at you two, growing up so fast. Emily hugged Jack tightly. It's so good to see you, Jack. It's been too long. Jack nodded, his eyes misty with emotion. I'm glad you're here. Come in, let's catch up. They gathered in the living room, the warm sunlight filtering through the curtains, casting a gentle glow over the room. The scent of freshly baked cookies, a family favorite, filled the air. Michael and Emily settled into the comfortable chairs while Jack poured them all some coffee. It's amazing how time flies, Jack said, his voice filled with nostalgia. I still remember that day when you hid my toys, Uncle Michael. It feels like it was just yesterday. Michael chuckled, his eyes crinkling at the corners. That was quite the adventure, wasn't it? But it taught you a valuable lesson. Emily nodded, her gaze affectionate. You took that lesson to heart, Jack. You've become such a wonderful father, just like we knew you would. Jack's heart swelled with pride and gratitude. It was because of the lessons you both taught me. Mum's wisdom, your guidance, Uncle Michael. They shaped who I am today. Michael reached out, placing a hand on Jack's shoulder. Your mother would be so proud of you, Jack. She always knew you'd grow up to be a great man. Jack looked around the room, filled with memories of his late mother. I think about her every day. Her teachings, her love. They live on in everything I do. As they reminisced, Lily and Max returned, carrying an old photo album. Dad, look what we found, Lily exclaimed, opening the album to a page filled with pictures of Jack and Emily as children. Jack's eyes softened as he flipped through the pages. These were taken during one of our family reunions. We had so much fun back then. Emily smiled, pointing to a picture of them building a fort in the yard. I remember this day. We spent hours playing outside, using our imagination to create new worlds. Max's eyes widened with excitement. Can we build a fort too? Jack laughed, nodding. Of course we can. It's a family tradition. As they gathered materials for the fort, Jack reflected on the impact of those childhood lessons. They had instilled in him a deep sense of responsibility, care, and love, values he now passed on to his own children. Uncle Michael watched with pride as Jack guided his children, his heart full of joy seeing the legacy continue. You've done well, Jack. Your mother would be so happy. Jack nodded, a tear slipping down his cheek. Thank you, Uncle Michael, for everything. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the yard, the family stood back to admire their handiwork. The fort, a symbol of their unity and love, stood tall and proud. Lily and Max beamed with pride. We did it! Jack hugged his children tightly. Yes, we did. And we did it together. The family home was alive with laughter and the clinking of glasses as friends and relatives gathered to celebrate Nancy's 75th birthday. The scent of roasted chicken and freshly baked bread filled the air, mingling with the soft hum of conversation. Jack, now a confident and accomplished man, moved through the crowd, making sure everyone felt welcome. Emily stood by the fireplace, admiring the decorations they had put up earlier. Balloons in soft pastels and banners with "Happy 75th Birthday, Nancy" hung elegantly around the room. She spotted Uncle Michael by the kitchen, helping with the last-minute preparations. Hey, Uncle Michael, Emily called out, making her way to him. Do you need any help? Michael turned, a warm smile on his face. Just finishing up here? Everything looks wonderful, doesn't it? Emily nodded, glancing around. It really does. I'm so glad we could all come together for Mum's birthday. As they finished setting the table, Nancy walked into the room, her presence commanding attention. She was radiant, her silver hair catching the light, but there was a subtle hesitation in her steps that did not go unnoticed by her children. Mum, you look beautiful. Jack said, giving her a gentle hug. "Happy birthday." Nancy smiled, though there was a fleeting look of confusion in her eyes. "Thank you, Jack. It's so lovely to have everyone here." As the evening progressed, they shared stories and laughter, reminiscing about the past. But Jack and Emily couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Nancy's occasional lapses in memory and moments of disorientation were becoming more apparent. "Do you remember the time we went camping and the tent collapsed?" Emily asked, hoping to prompt a familiar laugh from her mother. Nancy's brow furrowed, a shadow of uncertainty crossing her face. I think so, dear. It's just that some things are harder to recall these days." Jack and Emily exchanged worried glances. Uncle Michael, noticing their concern, quietly excused himself from the conversation and joined them in a corner of the room. "I've noticed it too," Michael said softly. "She's been having more trouble with her memory lately." Jack sighed, running a hand through his hair. "What do we do, Uncle Michael? She's always been so strong." Michael's eyes were filled with compassion. "We need to be patient and supportive. It's important to get her the help she needs. Have you talked to her about seeing a doctor?" Emily nodded. "We've mentioned it, but she always brushes it off. Maybe now, with everyone here, we can gently bring it up again." The three of them returned to the living room, where Nancy was sitting with a group of old friends, laughing at a story someone was telling. Jack waited for a lull in the conversation before approaching her. "Mum, can we talk for a moment?" he asked, his tone gentle. Nancy looked up, a bit surprised. "Of course, Jack. What's on your mind?" He took a deep breath, trying to find the right words. "Emily and I have noticed that you've been having some trouble with your memory lately. We're worried about you." Nancy's smile faded slightly, her eyes clouding with emotion. I've been feeling a bit off, it's true, but I didn't want to worry you." Emily sat down beside her, taking her hand. "Mum, we love you, and we just want to make sure you're okay. Maybe we could see a doctor together, just to be safe." Nancy's eyes filled with tears, and she nodded slowly. "Thank you, my darlings. I've been scared to face it, but I know I'm not alone." Uncle Michael placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We're all here for you, Nancy. We'll get through this together." The room, filled with love and concern, felt warmer and more united than ever. The conversation turned to lighter topics, and the party continued with a renewed sense of closeness and support. As the night drew to a close, Jack and Emily helped their mother to bed. She squeezed their hands, her eyes shining with gratitude and love. "I'm so proud of both of you. You've grown into such wonderful people." Jack kissed her forehead. "We learned from the best, Mom." Emily hugged her gently. "Good night, Mom. We love you." Back in the living room, Uncle Michael was tidying up, a thoughtful expression on his face. Jack joined him, helping to clear the plates. "Thank you for being here, Uncle Michael. We couldn't do this without you." Michael smiled, his eyes reflecting the bond they shared. "Family sticks together, Jack, no matter what." The morning after Nancy's birthday celebration, the house was quiet. The sunlight streamed through the windows, casting a gentle glow on the well-loved furniture and family photos adorning the walls. Jack and Emily sat at the kitchen table, sipping their coffee and discussing their plans for the day. "Mum's memory seemed a bit better last night," Emily said thoughtfully, stirring her coffee. "But we still need to talk to her about seeing a doctor." Jack nodded, glancing towards the hallway that led to their mother's room. "Agreed. Let's take it one step at a time. She mentioned she wanted to show us something today." Their conversation was interrupted by the sound of footsteps. Nancy appeared in the doorway, looking more rested than she had the previous evening. She smiled warmly at her children. "Good morning, Mum," Jack greeted her. "You said you had something to show us?" Nancy's eyes sparkled with a mix of excitement and nostalgia. "Yes. There's a room in this house you haven't seen. It's time you knew about it." Intrigued, Emily and Jack followed their mother down the hallway. Nancy led them to her bedroom and then to a large, antique wardrobe. She opened the doors, revealing a collection of neatly arranged clothes and personal items. "Mom, we've seen your wardrobe before," Emily said, puzzled. Nancy gave a knowing smile and reached to the back of the wardrobe, pulling a small lever. There was a soft click, and a hidden panel slid open, revealing a narrow staircase leading down to a dimly lit room. Jack exchanged a surprised look with Emily. "I had no idea this was here." Nancy led the way, carefully descending the stairs. Emily and Jack followed closely, their curiosity growing with each step. The hidden room was unlike any other part of the house. It was filled with memorabilia from their father's life, old photographs, letters, and personal items carefully arranged on shelves and tables. In the center of the room stood a mannequin dressed in one of their father's favorite suits. The sight of it took Jack and Emily's breath away. It was as if their father was standing there, frozen in time. "Mom, this is incredible," Emily whispered, tears welling up in her eyes. Nancy turned to face them, her expression a mixture of sorrow and love. "After your father passed away, I needed a place to remember him, to feel close to him. This room became my sanctuary." Jack walked over to the mannequin, gently touching the sleeve of the suit. "You must have spent so much time here." Nancy nodded, her voice trembling. "I did. It was my way of coping with the grief. I couldn't bear to let go of him completely. So, I created this space." Emily wrapped her arms around her mother, holding her tightly. "We understand, Mom. It's a beautiful tribute to Dad." Michael, who had quietly joined them, stepped forward, his eyes filled with empathy. "Nancy, you've kept his memory alive in such a meaningful way, but it's also important to take care of yourself. Let us help you." Nancy looked at her brother, her children, and the room filled with memories. "I've realized that holding on too tightly has made it harder for me to move forward. I'm ready to take the next steps. With your support." Jack placed a hand on his mother's shoulder. "We'll be with you every step of the way, Mom. You're not alone." Together, they spent the morning sorting through the memorabilia, sharing stories and shedding tears. Each item they touched carried a memory, a piece of their father's legacy. As they worked, Nancy's burden seemed to lighten. The love and support of her family gave her the strength to face the challenges ahead. By the time they had finished, the hidden room no longer felt like a place of sorrow, but a room filled with love and cherished memories. That evening, as they sat around the dinner table, the atmosphere was filled with warmth and unity. Nancy looked around at her family, her heart full. "Thank you for helping me today. I feel more at peace than I have in a long time." Jack raised his glass, a smile spreading across his face. "To family, and to the strength we find in each other." Emily and Michael joined in, their glasses clinking together. "To family." The hidden room had revealed not just secrets of the past, but the enduring power of love and family. The weeks following the discovery of the hidden room were filled with visits from Emily and Jack. They made it a point to spend more time with their mother, sharing meals, stories, and laughter. The house felt warmer with their presence, but a shadow lingered as Nancy's health continued to decline. One crisp autumn evening, Emily and Jack arrived at their mother's home, the setting sun casting a golden hue over the familiar surroundings. The air was tinged with the scent of fallen leaves and the distant sound of children playing. They had brought homemade soup and fresh bread, hoping to lift Nancy's spirits. "Mom, we're here!" Jack called out as they entered the house, their voices echoing through the quiet rooms. There was no response. A sense of unease settled over them as they made their way to Nancy's bedroom. The door was slightly ajar, and as they gently pushed it open, the scene inside took their breath away. Nancy lay on her bed, her frail body still and peaceful. She was cradling a familiar piece of clothing, their father's old jacket, a treasured memento she often held close during moments of reflection. The room was filled with the soft, fading light of the setting sun, casting a serene glow over her. "Mum," Emily whispered, her voice trembling as she stepped closer. Jack's breath hitched as he knelt beside the bed, his hand reaching out to touch Nancy's cheek. It was cool to the touch, a stark contrast to the warmth she had always radiated. Tears welled up in his eyes as the reality of the moment sank in. "Emily, she's gone," Jack choked out, his voice breaking. Emily's knees buckled, and she sank to the floor beside her brother. They embraced, their sobs muffled against each other's shoulders, the weight of their grief pressing down on them. The room, filled with the echoes of their childhood, now held the stillness of loss. They held each other tightly, drawing strength from their shared pain. The memories of their mother's love and sacrifices flooded their minds, a bittersweet reminder of the life she had lived and the legacy she left behind. Jack looked up, his eyes glistening with tears, and glanced towards the window. The sun was setting, its brilliant colors painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. It was as if the world itself was paying tribute to Nancy, mirroring her journey from the vibrant days of her youth to the gentle twilight of her life. "She's with Dad now," Emily whispered, her voice filled with a mixture of sorrow and solace. "They're together again." Jack nodded, his heart aching with the loss, but also filled with a sense of peace. "She's not suffering anymore, and she'll always be with us, in everything we do." They sat in silence, watching the sun dip below the horizon. The world outside continued its steady rhythm, unaware of the profound loss that had just occurred within the walls of their home. But for Jack and Emily, time seemed to stand still, their grief a timeless testament to the love they shared with their mother. As the last rays of sunlight disappeared, the room grew dim, and the reality of their new world without Nancy settled in. They knew that life would never be the same, but they also knew that they carried a part of her within them, her strength, her kindness, and her unwavering love. The sky transitioned from the fiery colors of sunset to the calm, dark blanket of night. Jack and Emily stood up, their hands still clasped together. They knew there were things to do, arrangements to make, and people to inform. But in that moment, they allowed themselves to simply be, to grieve, to remember, and to honor the woman who had given them everything. "Let's go outside," Jack said softly, his voice steadying. Mum loved watching the sunset. They walked out into the yard, the cool evening air wrapping around them like a comforting embrace. They stood side by side, gazing at the spot where the sun had just set, the sky still glowing with the remnants of its light. "We'll get through this," Emily said, squeezing Jack's hand. "We have each other, and we have her love." Jack nodded, a sense of determination settling over him. "We'll make her proud, Emily. We'll carry on her legacy." As they stood there, looking out at the horizon, they felt a quiet strength rise within them. The setting sun had taken Nancy with it, but her light, her love, and her memories would continue to shine brightly in their hearts, guiding them through the days ahead. In the silence of the evening, with the stars beginning to twinkle in the sky, they found a sense of peace. Nancy's journey had ended, but their own paths were just beginning, illuminated by the love of a mother who had given them everything and would forever be a part of them.